What's up, Ryan K here from Refer, and this is a quick follow-up video about how to level up your career by doing projects. All of us want to advance in our career, and we've got this kind of 5 or 10-year goal of where we want to get to. And throughout, some of my videos on my YouTube channel, I've explained how to plot your course by looking at other role models. Finding their resumes or their LinkedIn profiles of people who are doing the job you want to get to, who started where you started, and mapping out their journey. More importantly, throwing it into ChatGPT, using ChatGPT to map out that journey and explaining what jobs you need, job title, industry, what your skills gaps are, all that kind of stuff. Now, one of the things that I am most adamant about is that as a job seeker, I need to be in control of that journey. I'm the captain of the ship. I'm not just along for the ride. And jumping from the job you're doing today to the next job in line is most likely going to take an add-on, a power-up, a level up, whatever you want to call it. Being great at your current job most likely does not make you qualified for that next job. And there's a good chance that when you apply for that next job that's a jump up, you're going to be competing for it with people who already do the job at somewhere else and just want an extra 25 cents per hour. So that means you're already kind of behind. You're behind the crowd. We need a way to level up and at least make us equal to it. Now, when you're applying for a job, if you haven't watched the video on becoming a referral or using a reference, go watch that video, because 100% of the time, to move yourself up in the rankings, you need to be a referral. But when we do these projects, when we take and we identify, hey, I may not be asked to do this job at work, but I want to do these certain tasks to prove I can do it, there's a very methodical way to go about doing it. Go check out the project video, but you have to identify the project. You need to figure out the tactic you're trying to learn. You need to figure out where you can learn how to do it. You need to outline a project to prove you know how to do it. You need to actually create proof, portfolio, example, whatever the working model. And then finally, you need results if possible, real live results. But once you've done that, you might have a question of, okay, now what? How do I use that to get a job? Well, quite simply, number one, you put it in your resume. Number two, you add that project to your LinkedIn profile. Most importantly, you post about it, especially throughout the project. What you're learning, why you're learning it, what the project is. Ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for input or feedback. Show your working model, show the results you got, etc. on your profile inside of groups. But when it comes time to actually apply for the job, this is where we're going to have to take it to the next level. And what I mean by that is, when you think about your resume, you're going to have to figure out a way to highlight these projects even though they're not part of your current job. There's a couple ways to do this. Number one would be to create a second job on your resume that shows this as a side hustle, as almost like a side business or something along those lines. We don't want to project it as a business. We want to project it as projects that we're doing. And you could actually build an entire section that's just projects I've been working on, and explain it that way. Like, I've been preparing for this next job, and so I identified these 4 projects that I built. Here's the name of the project. Here's what it's all about. You're almost building out this project section. It's not a skill. Even though you will add skills that you learned doing the project to the skills section, you're building this project section. I would move it up near the top, if not before your experience. And the reason is if you're trying to get a job you don't currently have experience for, your resume is showing this progression, right? That should lead you to the next job, but the project is the bridge we're building across it. So number one, we're going to add it to our resume and our LinkedIn profile. Number two, we're going to talk about it in our pain letter. Most people think about cover letters. They're using this generic letter. That's not what you want to do. You can make one if it's required, but what you want instead is a pain letter. A pain letter talks about your business is struggling with X. That's why you're hiring for this. In order to help you solve that problem, you would need to know A, B, and C, and I know those things. Here's the proof. That is something you can type up in an email to send to HR, to send to the manager. It's something you should be posting about, and it's therefore something you can then talk about in an interview. There's 2 main things that this is going to do. Number one, clearly our intended goal, which was I'm showing that I actually do know how to do the job I'm applying for, even though I may not have had actual physical work experience doing it. I have built up experience on my own, right? That's number one. Number two, it's going to show initiative. You see, you're doing something that wasn't required, that isn't necessary, and that you weren't paid for. And that is extremely valuable to employers to see, hey, this person identifies the gaps they have, maps them out, and does what's not required in order to build up that ability. The final part is you need to be able to know how to talk about them. And when you're talking about these projects, in the same way as explaining them, you want to be very methodical. You follow a certain framework. It's called the STAR framework. You can go and look it up. But effectively, you're like, I identified that I need to learn this thing. And this is my variation on it of how to talk about a project. Like, hey, I built these projects. Why do you think you're qualified for this job? Well, because I've done these 5 projects, because I, number one, identified that this skill, this knowledge, this ability was required to be great at this job. Number one, I identified it. I identified it because I looked and did research on different resumes of people doing the job. I identified it because I talked to people currently doing the job or their bosses or whatever. I did the research. I identified these things. Number two, I learned how to do them. I read this book. I followed, listened to these 5 podcasts. I watched these training videos. I got this certification. I learned how to do it. Number 3, I did it. Learning is great, but doing is better. And so I actually did it. I designed this project. I mapped it out. This is what I was doing. Here's what I did. Here's the steps I took. Number 4, here's the output of the project, the proof. I built this web page. I created this LinkedIn pro. I did whatever the case may be. Whatever is the proof, that whole portfolio portion of it. And finally, here's the results I got. Now those results could be I learned this and changed things. It could be here was the math, but no matter what those results were, it should show improvement. Look, I sent 100 emails. I got this open rate. I changed X, Y, and Z. I got this open rate, right? Results aren't just the result of your test. It is the result of your progress plus progression. That right there, if you learn how to think through your project that way, if you learn how to explain it in a pain letter, if you learn how to explain it in an interview, you're going to crush that interview because most people are just not that methodical about how they explain even their real work experience, let alone when you're trying to, once again, you're at the bottom of the stack because you're competing against people who have actually done the job. So you, number one, level up with a referral or a reference, whatever you want to call it. And number 2, you level up with projects and how you explain them. Surprisingly enough, how you explain a project is just as important as actually doing the project. Because you could be great at the project and not explain it well. And so hopefully this video finds you well and it makes sense. If not, if you have questions or comments, throw them into the comment section. I read all of them. I respond to all of them. So please throw anything you've got about this concept or any of the others down there. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.